Hey everyone! Welcome to my channel Manhwa Mantra. I noticed that a lot of you watch my videos but haven't subscribed yet. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button. It really motivates me to keep creating more amazing videos for you all. In the previous chapter, we saw the beast taming sect completely crumble under the overwhelming might of the demon scheming sect. One by one, the beast taming sect disciples resorted to groveling and begging for mercy rather than fighting, abandoning all dignity in the process. The demon scheming sect, in turn, spared them with mockery and laughter, dominating the arena without breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, Elder Yun began to suspect that this display of power and strategy was all part of Zhou Fan's cunning plan, leaving everyone in awe and fear of his genius. Let's begin the story. What's wrong, Elder? Shui Ruohua asked, noticing the deep frown on Elder Yun's face. Elder Yun's expression was dark, his gaze fixed on the demon scheming sect. Good for you, Fiend Yang. You had me fooled, he said bitterly. This declaration only heightened the confusion among the group. Shui Ruohua glanced at the others, her brow furrowed. What do you mean, Elder? What's going on? Elder Yun let out a heavy sigh, his voice dripping with frustration. Don't tell me you haven't noticed. The demon scheming sect and beast taming sect have been fighting without leaving a single injury. Doesn't that strike you as odd? Ruohua blinked, unsure of what he was getting at. But given the gap between their strengths, isn't that expected? The demon scheming sect is just dominating them. Elder Yun shook his head gravely. Exactly. The gap is enormous, and they're breezing through the fights with ease. But that's the problem. In the history of the Double Dragon Gathering, no sect has ever achieved this. Every competitor fights with everything they have, pushing themselves to the limit for their sect's honor and resources. Yet here we are with no injuries. That can only mean one thing: they've rigged these fights. Ruohua's eyes widened in disbelief. What? You think they're staging these battles? But why? To conserve strength, Elder Yun replied firmly. They're letting the beast taming sect's disciples walk away unharmed, so that they can remain at full power when facing us. The weight of his words sank in, and the girl's expressions turned grim. Xian Xiaoyu scoffed, his tone brimming with disdain. Demonic cultivators are always like this, scheming, untrustworthy degenerates. Ruohua frowned but kept quiet. Before anyone could say more, a calm but pointed voice interrupted the tension. Senior brother, you're wrong, Chu Qingcheng said, her tone steady but cutting. They're not degenerates. They're just playing by the rules. And honestly, can you blame them? We attacked them when they were down. It's only natural they'd seek revenge. This isn't about demonic or righteous paths. It's about survival. The sudden shift in the conversation silenced everyone. All eyes turned to Chu Qingcheng, their surprise evident. Xuan Xiaoyu's face darkened with anger. Junior sister, why do you always defend them? Is this because of him? His voice carried a sharp edge. Chu Qingcheng met his gaze, unflinching. Partly, she admitted. He's an old friend, and I'll always stand by his side. But this has nothing to do with him. The truth is, the demon scheming sect is using their brains, not just brute force. They're being strategic. And honestly, accusing them of immorality just because we're at a disadvantage, that's a weak excuse, and I despise such behavior. Her words hit like a whip, cutting through the group's assumptions. For a moment, no one spoke, each person lost in thought. Shen Xiaoyu, however, wasn't done. His voice rose, laced with bitterness. So, junior sister, if he stoops even lower, will you still defend him? Chu Qingcheng's lips curled into a faint smile. He would never do such a thing. Her eyes softened as she continued, her voice tinged with nostalgia. You don't know him. Let me tell you a story. Once, during a pill competition, he had the upper hand from the start. He could have finished much earlier, but instead, he used underhanded tactics to push his rival to the edge. His opponent was forced to burn his blood essence just to qualify. Yet when someone claimed the rival should win based on speed, he was the first to object. Quality mattered more in that competition, and he stood by his principles. Danner tilted her head, curiosity flashing in her eyes. But wasn't he the one who pushed his rival to such lengths? Why would he defend him? Because that's who he is, Chu Qingcheng replied. He admits defeat when it's due and shows grace in victory. He's not a saint, but he has his own code. I used to think he wasted an opportunity, but looking back, I see that he acted with honor. That's what makes him a true man. The girls exchanged glances, their hearts stirred by her words. Zhuo Fan's reputation suddenly seemed deeper, more complex. Sun Xiaoyu, on the other hand, was seething. He clenched his fists, feeling as though Chu Qingcheng had just called him less of a man by comparison. "Sister Qingcheng," Danner asked eagerly, "did he win that competition?" Chu Qingcheng chuckled softly. "Of course he did. And his opponent? Did he survive?" Danner pressed. "To everyone's surprise, yes," Chu Qingcheng said with a smile. "In fact, not only did he survive, but later they joined forces. They're both top alchemists now." The revelation left the girls stunned. Chu Qingcheng's smile widened as she added, "Heroes recognize heroes. And apparently, so do devious demonic cultivators." Elder Yun, sensing the growing admiration for Zhuo Fan, quickly stepped in. "Qingcheng, righteous and demonic paths are clearly defined. Don't lose sight of that." Chu Qingcheng shrugged nonchalantly, while the girls sighed in quiet frustration. Even so, their perception of Zhuo Fan had irrevocably changed. Meanwhile, in the arena, the monotonous matches between the demon, scheming sect and the beast, taming sect continued. Every fight ended the same way. The beast taming. Sect's disciples surrendering and walking away unharmed. What had started as a spectacle now bored the audience to tears. Finally, it was Zhuo Fan's turn to face Huixiong, the beast taming. Sect disciple strutted onto the stage, his confidence towering. "Watch closely," he declared. "I'll show you how a real disciple fights." Elder Lu's eyes lit up with renewed hope. "The honor of our sect rests on you, Huixiong. Do not fail us." "Don't worry, Master," Huixiong boasted. "I'll make him regret ever stepping into this ring." In contrast, Zhuo Fan walked up with his usual calm demeanor. Fiend Yang called out nervously, "Zhuo Fan, remember? Don't hurt him too much." Zhuo Fan waved him off, smirking. "Relax, it's just a friendly match, right?" Fiend Yang wasn't convinced. Turning to Gui Hu, he muttered, "Do you think he can hold back?" Gui Hu shrugged. "If I learn to, he can too." "That's different," Fiend Yang snapped. "This guy doesn't know when to quit with his arrogance. I can only hope Zhuo Fan has the patience of a saint." The stage was set, and all eyes were on Zhuo Fan and Huixiong as the final battle began. Zhuo Fan finally stepped onto the stage, drawing sharp glares from all around. Yan Mo and the Han brothers locked their eyes on him, assessing his every move. However, someone else was also watching him with an intensity that surpassed the rest, a figure hidden in the shadows by the entrance. Their gaze burned with an unreadable intent. Meanwhile, Yongning and Shuangger were brimming with excitement. To them, the true star of the show had arrived, and their warm smiles revealed their unwavering support. Huixiong, however, had other plans. With his arrogance dialed up to the maximum, he bellowed, "Ha ha ha! Punk, your sect has embarrassed us long enough, and now you're here to pay the price. It's just your rotten luck that we drew the same number." His mocking laughter grated on everyone's nerves. Yan Mo's group sneered silently, thinking, "What an idiot." Fiend Yang's side, on the other hand, remained tense, silently hoping Zhuo Fan would keep his cool. Fortunately, Zhuo Fan had changed since his time in the sect. His mind and heart had grown immeasurably, and no amount of Huixiong's taunts could shatter his tranquility. He stood still, his expression calm, as if Huixiong's blustering was beneath him. Fiend Yang allowed himself a small sigh of relief. Yet, just as he began to relax, Zhuo Fan suddenly frowned. Something stirred within him, a strange sensation, pulling his focus toward the entrance. His sharp gaze locked onto the shadows there, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. Huixiong, meanwhile, was growing impatient. He had expected his opponent to react, to show fear or anger. Instead, Zhuo Fan seemed utterly uninterested, his attention elsewhere. Frustration boiled over, and Huixiong shouted, "Fine! Ignore me all you want, you ignorant fool. A puny third-layer radiant stage like you dares to disrespect me? You're asking for it!" The audience, unimpressed by Huixiong's antics, rolled their eyes. A peak radiant stage expert showing off against someone far weaker? How pathetic. Even Yan Mo's group scoffed silently. The moment that guy moves, Huixiong's finished. But Zhuo Fan still didn't move. His body remained rooted to the spot, his eyes fixed on the entrance. The crowd murmured, confused by his lack of response. Fiend Yang, too, was bewildered. Why isn't he doing anything? I told him to take it easy, but this is ridiculous. Huisheng, however, interpreted Zhuo Fan's stillness as fear. Ha ha ha! Did I scare you? Don't think this will save you! I'm not going easy on you just because you're a coward. With that, Huisheng's aura flared to life. A massive gray bear appeared behind him, its power so overwhelming that even the barrier trembled under the pressure. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the bear's ferocious energy filled the arena. Even Gui Hu, usually unimpressed by Huisheng's antics, acknowledged his strength. While Huisheng often talked big, there was no denying that he was the top disciple of the beast-taming sect for a reason. Against any other Radiant Stage opponent, he might have had a real chance at victory. But against Zhuo Fan, there wasn't a shred of hope. As the gray bear roared and charged, Huisheng unleashed a devastating attack. "Descending bear paw!" he shouted, the bear's massive claw crashing down toward Zhuo Fan with incredible force. The ground shattered beneath the blow, tiles and debris flying in all directions. The power of the attack sent shockwaves through the arena. But Zhuo Fan remained utterly still, his gaze unwavering from the shadows at the entrance. The audience was stunned. Is he frozen in fear? Even his allies exchanged worried glances. Fiend Yang's heart pounded in his chest. What's wrong with him? But Zhuo Fan wasn't afraid. He was distracted, his instincts screaming at him about the hidden danger near the entrance. His piercing gaze remained locked on the shadows, his mind racing to decipher the threat. Then 2 flickers of light appeared in the darkness, and Zhuo Fan's heart clenched. A surge of danger, unlike anything he'd ever felt, overwhelmed him. His body reacted instinctively. Purple lightning erupted from him, his red Qilin arm glowing with terrifying energy, and azure flames flickered in his eyes. All 3 of his trump cards activated at once, completely out of his control. Huisheng's bare paw descended, but Zhuo Fan barely seemed to notice. Acting on pure reflex, he raised his fist and struck. The result was catastrophic. Scarlet light and purple. Lightning combined into an explosive force that obliterated Huisheng instantly. The peak Radiant Stage. Expert didn't even have time to scream as his body disintegrated, leaving no trace behind. The shockwave from the attack tore through the barrier, shattering it like glass. The judge barely had time to react as the unleashed energy surged forward, tearing into the beast-taming sect's disciples. A deafening explosion rocked the arena. When the dust settled, there was nothing left of Huisheng or his sectmates. Even their elder had been reduced to a trembling soul, barely clinging to existence. The crowd was stunned into silence. All eyes turned to Zhuo Fan, who stood at the center of the destruction. His red Qilin arm pulsed with power, his gaze still fixed on the entrance. Finally, the judge found his voice, though it trembled with disbelief. Beast-taming sect's disciples. Annihilated. Not even the elder's body remains. The audience collectively held their breath. Monster. The word echoed silently in everyone's minds as they stared at Zhuo Fan, their fear palpable. Even Yanmo was shaken. This guy, he wasn't even trying back in that cave. Zhuo Fan's display of power had been terrifyingly casual, a reflexive response to the danger he sensed, and that danger hadn't disappeared. His sharp eyes remained locked on the shadows, where those 2 flickering lights had vanished. Though his power subsided, Zhuo Fan's heart grew heavier. His fated enemy was here, he could feel it. But who were they? And why did their presence evoke such an overwhelming response from his body? As the crowd murmured in awe and fear, Zhuo Fan's frown deepened, his thoughts churning. The shadows at the entrance held the answer, and he was determined to uncover it.